Good evening. Let me introduce my eminent panelists first. Achin Gupta is the CEO of One India Business at Cipla. He oversees Cipla's strategy for India, driving synergies across the company's various businesses. Welcome, Mr. Gupta.
Thank you, and my pleasure to be here.
Dr. Satya Ramani Vadlamani is chairman of Murli Krishna Pharma. She has over 30 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry. Welcome.
Thank you.
One point that often emerged in the discussions was, today's, of course, ensuring access to treatment, access to diagnosis, access to medicines. Mr. Gupta, how better can we do that, ensuring access to medicines for the needy?
Yeah, I think brilliant point. And first of all, I want to start by congratulating the the week publication for organizing this, and lovely talks, very inspiring to see some of the stories which were shared by previous panelists. So on access, it is a very important issue given that we have a very large population base. And if you see tier 2 to 6, only around 20% of hospital beds are actually there. Right? So while there's such a large population, what is the access to high quality healthcare that is available? And I believe some of this is happening organically. We reach to pretty much all the pin codes in the country from our pharmaceutical perspective. But more recently, we've started looking at things like point of care diagnostics, because for a patient sitting in the interior, or for that matter, anybody, right? If you have access to a diagnostic which can tell you about your health condition here and now, and similar price to what you would get from a lab. And I think in the previous panel, somebody said, avoid false negatives, right? So if you can get to know your heart condition markers, your HbA1c, your fever panel, there's lots of things. These kind of things make the treatment really, really accurate, and the cost of treatment as well as the quality of treatment goes up exponentially the moment your diagnosis happens earlier. Right? So I strongly believe point of care diagnostic is a very big lever to ensure access which is closer to where people are. And as Cipla, for example, we've launched a tool called SipPoint, which is a portable diagnostic which gives some of these readouts. We have invested in a small startup called Achira, which is again designed to bring some of these diagnostics closer to patients. So a lot of work to be done, more in diagnostics, also in pharmaceuticals, and also in terms of secondary and tertiary care.
Dr. Satya, I would like to hear from you.
First of all, good thanks to Week for inviting me across to talk about my views on the various aspects of healthcare. So thank you very much. Having said that, yes, there are ways and means to reach out to the country, and this is something which I'm a bit passionate about, because we are trying to work with an organization in order to ensure that affordable healthcare goes out to the masses. Now, how do we reach the masses? ASHA workers. ASHA workers are the point of contact for most of the people in the interior villages. An ASHA worker is allowed to go meet the patient. They cannot treat a patient, but they can definitely meet a patient. If we can combine this with good AI-based technology or good systems by which a preliminary diagnosis can be done for the patient, any patient that the ASHA worker meets, if a preliminary diagnosis can be done through giving them a handheld mobile or a handheld something wherein, based on ICMR guidelines, certain basic preliminary question-answer kind of a session could be put in by which you can do a preliminary diagnosis of a patient. Based on the preliminary diagnosis, a portable diagnostic kit could be employed and taken to the patients. Most of these are villagers who do not have access to a lot of systems available. So the kind of stuff which Cipla is talking about of giving diagnostic kits, these portable kits could be employed through technicians who are aware of how to use it. Once the preliminary diagnosis comes out through an AI-based system which tells what exactly is the condition of the patient. Post this, Janaushadhis are there all over the country which are offering affordable care to the people. So I think trying to mix up the three things, you have something in hand to actually reach out to the people and give them. We ourselves at MKPPL are working on a product which is for the first time in the world. It's a transdermal application which helps in delivering iron transdermally into the human body. It's the first time in the world. We have patented the product. It is nanoparticles of iron, folate, D3 and B12. These nanoparticles are liposomally encapsulated, lyophilized and then blended into a lotion base. We are awaiting certain approvals. But the idea behind this product is for a country that wants to become anemia mukt by 2030 or 2040. You cannot do it through the oral supplementation that's available in the world today, because oral supplementation has a lot of side effects. So compliance is a major story. So unless you understand whether a patient will take your medication or not, giving them the medication has no meaning. So this is one way of doing it. Through the transdermal route, what we have seen is there's a 70 to 80% targeting of iron into the human body. It's a lotion-based product. It's not a patch. It does not increase the pore size of the skin. So it's a good product, does not cause any microbial infections on the human body. So our thing is, if we can, as pharmaceutical manufacturers, while we can offer good generic drugs into the market, we should also offer good innovative solutions into the market. Solutions which can increase compliance for patients, reduce toxicity of drugs, and reduce the dosage. I think this is where we come from. And making it affordable is actually something which India can do very easily. It's not difficult for us. We can give innovative products at affordable prices. And we can still be leaders in the world because we do have the largest manufacturing bases.
Innovation is expensive, but essential. So how do we strike a balance? Innovation is meaningless if it doesn't reach the most needed. So how can we strike a balance here?
So again, I think a very important question, and if we have to go up the value chain from being a volume-based supplier or a pharmacy to the world to being an innovator for the world, there's a lot of steps that need to happen. I would say one of the key things to realize there is in product innovation, we have to create a whole ecosystem, and I think some of the previous panels touched upon that as well. This ecosystem is a necessity because if you see any new drugs which are coming out, there's not one, but many different participants who are involved in bringing that treatment all the way to a patient, to the market. So, smaller biotechs, equipment providers, testing capabilities, there's a lot of capabilities which need to be done. As regulators, we see positive momentum. We're seeing the government having signed off a national policy on R&D. They've sanctioned some money. I think that's a starting point. As companies, we look at entering that innovation funnel through a bunch of things. Like we have, for example, we partnered on a stem cell research company called Stemputics. We have invested in an mRNA delivery company called Ethris, which is to deliver mRNA through inhaled route, which will be novel. Likewise, I know of several other companies who are making their investments into novel R&D. There is a CAR-T which is registered out of an Indian company. So a lot of positives. At the same time, I would say this is a full ecosystem approach. This is, eventually there will be few companies who will own some IP. But the system as a whole, if we were to get those 140 molecules which China is developing on bispecific MABs, to get to that level, the entire ecosystem will come together. So it will be a win for, the entire sector rather than something that would, be just winner takes all kind of thing. So I think that's one big element of it. One more thing which I would want to highlight is this is about, really first-in-class kind of stuff, whatever I just spoke about. But there's a lot of incremental innovation which is highly patient-centric, beneficial to our patient here and now, which we are already doing, right? Which as a sector, we are doing. If I take an example, we are big on respiratory care. Meter dose inhalers have a challenge for certain patients who find it hard to coordinate the actuation and the breathing. So we've come up with a breath actuated device. It's called Synchro Breathe. Very much liked by prescribers as well as patients because of the ease of administration, which then improves the compliance and adherence to treatment, which improves the outcome. So something which uses a lot of technology, but is right up our alley. We've invested, we've come up with this, and likewise there are a number of other delivery-related innovations, which Dr. Satya was also just talking about. There's a lot of work that we can do already, here and now, and these have shorter life cycles than the cutting-edge innovation. So I believe we need to have a two-pronged approach, work on ecosystem for novel, absolutely novel cutting-edge R&D, and then keep pursuing all the incremental innovation which keeps helping the patient, because patient's not going to wait for us to climb up the innovation ladder.
Dr. Satya.
I totally agree with Dr. Gupta on this. Two things which I would also like to add to this is, yes, the ecosystem does matter. You might have developed something, it might have taken you 6 months or 1 year to develop it. But then getting the regulatory approvals for it could take as much as 18 months to 2 years. That means what you're trying to offer to a patient could take as much as 2 to 3 years. There is an issue there. The government is trying to work on it. As industry, we are also trying to work alongside it. And I'm again not talking about rocket science innovation. I'm talking about incremental innovation only. It's not the rocket science one. But despite it, the regulations are tough. They're not easy to enter in. But we are doing our best. In fact, we too are in the respiratory line of late, and we have entered with the soft mist, because we wanted to bring in lower dosage, and not soft mist as in a Respimat kind of a thing, but in the corticosteroid range. So innovation is the key. Unfortunately, unlike US and all, you don't get much money for innovation in India. So you need to either partner or collaborate with people who are ready to fund that kind of innovation money, which involves both technology as well as an innovation at your end. So the delivery system would come from, you would probably create the product for the specialized delivery system. You would require an equipment that comes from somebody else who has developed the equipment to deliver that particular system into the human body. It all costs money. It definitely doesn't come easy, and that is one of the saddest reasons probably, or one of the reasons why a lot of Indian companies go towards the US for that kind of money, because that's the only place where there are players who are willing to invest into 1.4 million, 7 million, $8 million for any kind of a product, which in India is very difficult to get. In India, if you ask for those kind of funds, you don't get it. BIRAC, ICMR give you certain amounts, not much. And sometimes that money is insufficient for you to complete the studies required to get a product into the world. So I think, yes, innovation is expensive. You're not wrong about it. Incremental innovation is easier, but even trying to do incremental innovation in certain spaces where the tests involved are very expensive, you do require funds. And those funds, unfortunately, are available most of the time from the US rather than from India. And that is exactly the reason why the innovation tends to leave India and go to the other countries first and then comes back at a higher price into India. I tried to launch my product earlier in India, but now I am taking it outside because I'm finding it easier to get my product to US FDA as an IND rather than to do it in India as a routine product. So these are things. I'm not saying that somebody is right or somebody is wrong. The problem is we have lived in a very, very bureaucratic kind of a country for a long time, and only now the bureaucracy is opening out. They are trying to create systems which are more user-friendly, but it's still taking its own time. It's not easy to shift from one kind of an era into another era very easily. So that's it.
Mr. Gupta, you mentioned India being the pharma to the world, but there are some holes in that story, like our dependency on other countries for active pharma ingredients and occasional quality problems. How can we fix those?
See, supply security is a very big topic, especially, I think, as a country or as a world. Everybody realized it during the pandemic, and India did a magnificent job in terms of handling the pandemic and, vaccinating so many people, providing all kinds of treatments which were available. Post that, I think this has taken more cognizance from the government side as well. And there's some steps which have been taken. PLI has been introduced, which is a very positive step to encourage more local manufacturing. Very recently also, some of those manufacturing investments were announced. So I see, one is the whole China plus one will accelerate this naturally, right? Because we, don't want, supplies to get disrupted for any of the key medicines. And coupled with that, with some government help in terms of ensuring the supply security for key raw materials, key starting materials, that can accelerate the trend. So it is a journey. We'll have to go through it for a few years. But we see it happening now. And I think over time, we will definitely get there.
Yes, Dr. Satya.
I totally agree. There is a shortfall of certain key intermediates and certain APIs. We, in fact, as a manufacturer, buy our APIs from India, other than a couple of APIs which we do import from China. But even the Indian API manufacturers are facing problems in terms of intermediates, because a lot of intermediate companies, which were earlier based out of Gujarat, have all shut down for various reasons. And even China is shutting down enormous number of intermediate manufacturing companies because of the pollution that those plants release into the air. So it is a problem. We need to work out certain areas where these intermediates could be manufactured. Or we have all gone so much into forward integration that backward integration has kind of taken a back seat for everybody. And there have been eras, I think we have seen the 92 to 97, 98 kind of a period when a lot of API, I think we had more than 200 semi-synthetic penicillin plants in India at the time. And I think by 95, we were down to around 6 or 7 in number. So this keeps happening. It's a cyclic process. So we are just hoping that things change and things get better, because we do need, everybody requires support system of another industry. Without that, they can't survive. If we have to make a product, we need the APIs for that product. Similarly, they need something else to make their finished dosage forms. So everybody needs somebody. And I think the system needs to get a bit more better, but I think it will.
We have already started moving forward from the generic medicine business, like biosimilars, medtech. So what is the future?
From, I think, disease treatment perspective, biologics have proved that they can treat a lot of conditions with very razor-sharp focus. And a lot of the new molecules which are coming out are falling in that category. So that's clearly one focus area. We have in India, we have number of biosimilars which are there. Cipla has tie-up with JV with Chemwell to manufacture biosimilars. Other companies have their own setups. So there is I think from a biologics perspective, biosimilars is definitely one growing segment. Additionally, the newer ones like mRNA treatment, gene therapy, stem cell, CAR-T, all of these are going to become more popular, especially as the clinicians get more comfort with their usage. Because we have to also understand there are specific nuances with the Indian population. Doctors want that comfort before they start putting a lot of patients on the therapy, in addition to whatever price barriers are there. So I think that's one clear area. On medical devices as well, there's going to be a lot of innovation which is possible. If I, as I mentioned earlier, right, if I look around, there are treatments or there are therapies where 1/10 of the patients are actually diagnosed, right, in the funnel. And, if you see quoted statistics also, it will say maybe 40-50% people are getting diagnosed on time. Anecdotally, I can tell you, when we speak to certain prescribers, they say patient present too late. They're only presenting late stages as opposed to coming in. So let's say asthma, for example, stage 4 and stage 5 is when they will get to see a patient. Hardly any numbers in stage 1, 2, 3, etc. So medical devices is a very big area. For us, I think within that, the focus is portable, because portable point of care, because that can revolutionize, the diagnostics. At the other end also, there is a big need for AI-enabled tools. So there are companies who are working on imaging and using that AI to artificially analyze that imaging. There are some providers we work with who work on face scan technologies that, some of those we've already piloted. So there's a lot of, I think, tech which is going to disrupt this entire diagnostics and devices piece, which also breaks two barriers. One is it breaks the barrier of waiting for a long time to get your right diagnosis. Second, it eventually breaks the price barrier as well, to make it more accessible to the large population in our country. And I see both of them happening. We are participating in that. We are driving some of those medtech innovations ourselves on respiratory, on point of care. And I think across the system, there's a number of players who are working on it. So these innovations will definitely, you'll find them coming more out of India than us being a follower on that.
Dr. Satya.
Disruption is the name of the game. mRNA, siRNA, then you have the immune modulators. There's a whole range of story out there, and it's beautiful. The only problem is as to the timeline taken for each of these products to come out into the market space. Some of them are already there, some of them are still coming out. So these are products that will change the way in which a patient is treated. A patient need not be treated the way it was earlier. The conventional treatment has changed. The modus of treatment has changed in people. But getting a product in does take its own sweet time. So I'm really hoping that those products come in quick, especially in oncology. There's a lot of need for new kind of treatments to come in. You don't have to have the patient go through the horrible effects of radiation, followed by chemotherapy, followed by surgery. These are tough. The patient is already suffering and you're making them suffer a lot more. So I think more targeted treatments are a requirement of the day. Better delivery systems that ensure a better delivery into the human body, more targeted delivery into the human body. Biosimilars, which are extremely good. mRNA treatments. So these are all the new age treatments that are coming in. And I think we are living in a very exciting world right now where we are seeing various innovations coming out. And I think it is time. One thing I can assure you that India will have all whatever is there across the world within the country too, because India, while people feel cannot afford expensive healthcare, I personally don't agree with it. Yes, there is a certain sized population that can't afford it, but I would say still a lot of them in the city and the high tier states can afford it. And if the government helps, I'm very sure it can be made affordable even to the lower income class group through the Ayushman Bharat scheme and through Jan Aushadhis and all. But I think we are in the right track. Innovation is definitely on. Disruption is definitely on. And I think Indian innovators are the best. So even if you look anywhere across the world, you will find that the best scientists across the world are still the Indians. They may work in the AstraZenecas, or they may work in Novo Nordisk, or they may work in whatever you name it. But still, it's still an Indian out there who's doing his job, or putting his best foot forward.
There has been a shift in the focus of the pharma towards wellness. So what is driving this? Pharma companies helping people not to get sick. So what is the future?
Yeah, we call it the illness to wellness journey because illness, has all the wrong connotations, loss of working days, loss of quality of life, and in some cases, very adverse outcomes for a patient. Whereas the world with all the information available to all of us is moving more and more on the wellness direction. So as a responsible pharma player, we've also invested a lot in this. We have a separate consumer care arm, which does purely, consumer products. For example, we have a nicotine cessation product, where if you quit smoking, obviously it has all its benefits. And if you can help them in that journey, you are protecting quality of life for several years post that, right? Likewise, on a number of areas, whether that's in pain care, whether that's, in digestive care, there's a number of areas where today, each one of us, we may not be a patient, we are definitely a consumer, right? And as a consumer, I would rather do whatever is needed to be well and do the wellness journey as opposed to end up, seeking treatment for a particular condition. So I think conceptually that is driving it. Commercially also, it is a market which is attractive from a pharmaceutical company perspective because it starts behaving more like a consumer outfit. So you initially end up spending a lot on getting the message out there, inciting with the consumer, more like FMCG. And therefore, initial investments are significantly higher. But at the end of it, once this becomes, once your offerings become more mainstream, they become brands, then the stickiness is also higher. So from a commercial angle, it is helpful from a long-term strategic perspective to invest in an area where consumers want more of it, and you have the ability to, to really stand out, to build a brand, to have differentiated value proposition, as opposed to being one of the many offering essentially similar or same molecules.
Dr. Satya.
Wellness is a necessity. Illness comes and goes. So my story to everybody, or my thing to everyone, is work towards wellness. But at the same time, don't depend heavily on all the Nutra products available across the world. Half of them have dosages which are not even, they are way above RDA dosages. We just take them and we are loading our kidneys. If anybody has noticed or not, the number of kidney patients or the kidney transplant patients has increased to 25%, is increasing at a rate of 25% year on year. The reason being that people are overloading their kidneys. They take whatever they want of D3, whatever they feel they should take of B12. I'm seeing Amway products. I'm seeing products from companies like GNC. These are not regulated products. See, that is a sad part. While I totally agree with Dr. Gupta that wellness is essential, differentiated products are essential. Unfortunately, the regulations in those products are very, very less. And when a regulation is low, it's easy to bring a product out. Branding it, selling it is a different proposition. But I think we should be conscious players in the wellness division and not bring products out just because it's easy to bring them out through that route. The patient or the consumer is not really aware whether he requires that much dosage of B12 or does he require that much dosage of B complex or C or D or whatever. He's not aware of how much he really requires. He just sees the big numbers on a GNC bottle which is beautifully packaged and kept out there, and he thinks he should take it. I'm not trying to put names against any company. I'm just saying there needs to be a certain caution while going into the wellness products, or take them from those companies who at least assure you that whatever they are giving out in the market is not something that can harm you. Whether it does good for you or not is secondary as far as I'm concerned. At least it should not harm you in the long run. So try to stick to pharmaceutical companies who are offering you the Nutra products, rather than try to go with those who just come in with, huge quantities of protein, huge quantities of something else. It's going to impact your kidneys. At the end of the day, kidneys can only filter that much. You're overloading them. So I think wellness in excess can lead to illness. Whereas if it is treated in a prophylactic manner, if it is treated judiciously, wellness-based products can really help people, can reduce your dependency on generic medicines. But again, if you're seriously ill, you still require the proper generic medicine to treat you for it. So it's a very strange situation that we're all in.
Mr. Gupta, what are the safeguards we have against the concerns she raised? What are the safeguards we have against the concerns she raised about these wellness products?
Yeah. So, see, as a pharmaceutical manufacturer, we follow the pure scientific approach to developing these products, and a lot of them, like we have ORS product called ProLite. So it will follow the WHO ORS formula, right? And we try not to deviate from any of those standards, because we recognize then when somebody is consuming that product, they're actually placing your trust. And in a consumer area, there is no doctor in between to help the patient navigate, to prescribe the dose, etc. So that extra element of responsibility is on the company, and which is what, so if we look at all of our top brands, Nicotex, ProLite, Cipladine, Cofsils, I think all of them are fairly, well-researched, well-tested. We try and, actually you're not allowed, under the Magical Drugs and Remedies Act, you're not allowed to actually talk about anything, which can become addictive to a patient and for certain conditions, right? So if rules are there, okay, rules are there. If you follow the rules, then the danger for a patient is very little, right? But yes, any serious condition, my advice would also be, please consult a medical practitioner, because anything serious needs a proper qualified opinion.
I'll come to the last question of the session. We heard a lot about artificial intelligence today. How is AI changing the processes of drug discovery as well as production? I want to hear it from the established players. We heard a lot from the startups. So how is it, Mr. Gupta?
So, see, AI offers infinite possibilities. The challenge is in finding the right use cases which you can actually put to use. So in our case, I'll give one example. We have a large manufacturing facility in Indore, and we've used a lot of AI to monitor online process parameters, how to optimize, how to ensure that machines are working in perfect order, the yields are fine, the process is delivering the best outcomes. Also to then see which lines need to be staffed with which resources, etc. So we got recognized as there's a designation called Fourth Industrial Lighthouse. So we got designated that for the Indore facility. And that's a prime example of where you can successfully use that to improve the consistency, predictability, and the quality of whatever you're manufacturing, right? R&D, I think we are using it more on the regulatory side. We've just started, but we haven't used it on the basic chemistry, etc. yet, right? I think there are companies globally particularly who have utilized it very extensively. We are also trying to see where there are use cases on on the documentation side, on various other support functions that go on within the organization, because ultimately any effort that you can minimize from an error perspective or from excessive human intervention, if we can see a benefit in deploying that, those are the ones we go after. But this is a process, right? There is, I think, a lot of human learning that needs to go with AI to make those successful. Just deploying AI for the sake of deploying AI is not really going to yield much benefit, right? That then becomes a pure cost. So I'm pretty optimistic, AI in general. What we've seen as some really good use cases are also on diagnostic side. Like I mentioned, there's a face scan technology that has got an AI running in the background. There are companies who are focusing purely on imaging and analyzing that through AI. There's a lot of work that can happen in terms of mass screenings, which can happen with the use of AI. We are trying to bring some of those to a handheld device to be used by the patient on their mobiles. So very optimistic about it. And at the same time, it has to be selective in terms of what use cases you can deploy it on, so that it's really adding value and not just a fancy tool.
Dr.
We are also working on AI, utilizing AI at our facility in the production, where our need for working is based, primarily we are trying to work on predictive analytical procedures. That is, there are certain algorithms that can be employed and that can actually give you the right kind of results for a process. So it's a process-driven, AI manipulated or AI done kind of a system that is in place. I think it'll take us another 3 months to get it completely out and rolling. But that will ensure that the losses get reduced, human errors get reduced. I mean, despite having the best PLC machines, there is still a lot of scope for human error. That human error gets eliminated by actually understanding that using a particular API, a particular excipient, a particular thing, the yield I will get, the proper yield with the least amount of impurities, with impurities well within range. See, BMR itself is a very strong document, but if that BMR can be put through an AI-based system that will ensure that my production or my efficacy or my delivery, the quantum of product I get out, comes more closer to what is the ideal quantity with less losses, better dissolution, and a better impurity profile. I think I'm on the pathway of that, so we are doing that. Yes, AI is also used extensively in R&D, where again predictive technology becomes the name of the game, where you know that the usage of certain excipients, certain things can give you certain results. So even before you have run the complete trial, you have certain base case where you can try and understand whether it's worth going ahead with that process or better to try some other process. So artificial intelligence is very good. It's as good as the human who is using it. So it's not that AI is a ready-made package that comes to anybody and they say, okay, you just put it in and you get your answers out. It doesn't. So you have to know what you want. You have to know the right questions to ask. You also have to have someone who has created a software that understands and customizes it to your particular needs. So AI is definitely the future. But at the same time, people have to understand that you cannot allow it to go over you. You need to be judicious in your use of AI. AI is an extremely good tool. You can use it in practically every phase, in every part of your work or your life. But then you need to be careful. Because remember one thing, AI is also recording everything of yours. So for example, if you have something, or if you're, as an example, this has nothing to do with pharma. If you're using a chatbot or an AI chat GPT-4 or something, you start finding that it starts giving you answers as per your likes, as per your needs. The reason is it's also learning from you. It's a continuous learning program. So don't allow it to learn so much about you that it can start start actually creating problems for you. So learn to use it judiciously, and I think it's wonderful. In pharma, it has a lot of exciting areas where it can be worked on. As he put it rightly, in devices and all, it's wonderful. Especially if you're talking about diagnostic sector, nothing to beat it. Google also, I think in the morning was talking about the same thing. So Google Health, which is used by Apollo and all, it's very good. But again, use it judiciously. My only story is, AI is a fascination today for a lot of youngsters. Please use it judiciously. Don't allow it to get on you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta. Thank you.
Thank you.